In case you missed it, here's Dave and Cheryl's favorite moments of the week.
You get a case of the Mondays, or is it a case of the Tuesdays, or maybe it's later in the week. So no one obviously operates at peak efficiency throughout the week. There are some lulls. Monday morning is certainly one of them, but that's not when workers are the laziest.
A new study just used some computers to figure out when workers are the most and the least productive. So they looked at metrics including typing speed, typing errors, mouse activity. Very comprehensive. The data was from almost 800 workers over the course of 2 years. And in the end, they found that workers are the laziest and least productive, no surprise, on Friday afternoons.
I would say there's a correlation there between if you get a Saturday and Sunday off.
Yeah.
So if your week runs where your Saturday and Sunday is Tuesday and Wednesday, well, then the day before would be your laziest.
Now, the study didn't specifically say when workers are the most productive, but according to the data, the general trend is that workers are more productive as the week goes on and before it drops off at the end of the week. And mornings are also better than afternoons. So I think it'd be safe to say probably that Wednesday and Thursday mornings, those are the days that you are locked in.
I remember talking to a guy who subscribed that you needed to find out when your vehicle was built, what day of the week. Now, this narrows it down to even the time, but he had this whole theory, Wednesdays or Thursdays. He said that's when everybody's locked in. You know, you're still working through your week. He said Friday, man, you're thinking about the weekend. Monday, you're probably hungover. Tuesday, you're tired. Wednesdays and Thursdays.
You know what? And I think this is good information because that says to me, don't schedule meetings then for Wednesday or Thursday morning because that's when workers are getting the bulk of their work done. So don't interrupt them with useless meetings where they're just sitting there listening to someone else drone on.
Schedule them for Friday afternoon so everyone can have a nap.
Yum. Science.
It's not rocket science. Check it out. I blinded us with science.
As little as 1 or 2 minutes of vigorous exercise a day could lower your cancer risk, according to a new study. This activity can include power walking, climbing stairs, doing housework, or playing with the kids. But what if you're just laying on the ground while the kids are playing and just sort of like reaching your arm up?
Doesn't count. Doesn't count.
Probably doesn't count. So the study involved 22,000 adults who incorporated about 4.5 minutes of vigorous activity in short 1 to 2 minute bouts, had more than a 30% lower incidence rate of cancer.
Now, a bonus is if you're doing just a bit of walking each day as part of maybe this vigorous activity, you can actually knock 16 years off of your biological age. This is according to a study out of the UK that looked at more than 400,000 adults. And they found that as little as 10 minutes of brisk walking a day was associated with having longer telomeres. That's a part of your chromosomes that are associated with aging. And pretty much they found that if you started doing this, by the time you reached middle age, you would be 16 years younger than maybe someone who didn't go on, a bit of walking each day.
So brisk walking. So that's not sauntering. Or sashaying. No lollygagging.
Or meandering.
None of that. Hey, a study also has found that 6 minutes of cycling per day is enough to put the brakes on brain aging. So scientists found that a brief burst of cycling at close to a maximum effort can significantly raise levels of a protein that's linked to your brain's ability to grow and rewire itself. In fact, a short, sharp session, that's hard to say, had more impact than 20 hours of fasting and about 5 times the effect of slower cardio workouts.
So I need to be doing like a triathlon. You get your 2 minutes of vigorous exercise of walking and then do a bit of a longer walk for your biological age, and then 6 minutes of cycling.
And go at a high burst when you're on the bike.
Hey, if you've been counting on artificial intelligence to help you with your homework or your work assignments this year, you might find some comfort or horror in this news. Experts at UCLA say GPT has evolved to the point that it now performs as well as a college undergraduate when it comes to thinking out questions that often show up on standardized tests.
Pull the plug, man.
So the language learning model has graduated to higher education since late 2022 when its writing style was actually described as that of a very smart 12th grader. So they used it for a test and it scored around 80% correct on the IQ questions. The average person scores about 60%.
And that's on the level 3 model. Now there's a level 4 that's come out since.
ChatGPT, that's
So we're
level
just
4.
Gonna let the robots take over the world at this point, right?
Pretty much.
So just go and watch the original Terminator, and we'll see how it's all going to turn out.
Prepare yourself.
And in space news, Voyager 2 is still alive. It launched in 1977, and it's been sending back data ever since. NASA actually thought they had lost contact last month, but then it pinged from 12.4 billion miles away. That's 4 times farther than Pluto.
So you're telling me that this thing launched in 1977 is still going, but I have to change the batteries in my smoke alarms twice a year?
We can't get that figured out? Wire that in. This was made in 1977. Come on, still going strong.
AI.
Well, this is really interesting. This may change how movie and TV producers feel about using artificial intelligence.
Last Friday, a U.S. district judge ruled you can only copyright works created by humans, not AI. So a guy by the name of Steven sued because he was denied a copyright on a piece of artwork that was, quote, autonomously created by a computer algorithm running on a machine, aka AI. So he inputted some stuff, told it to create a work of art, and then he tried to copyright it. But the judge said, quote, human involvement in and ultimate creative control over the work at issue was key to the conclusion that the new type of work fell within the bounds of copyright.
And I applaud that. I mean, I'm all for computers and trying to, advance technology as much as we can. However, at what cost? Costing jobs. How many jobs could end up being replaced?
That's why the writers in Hollywood and the actors, SAG-AFTRA, are all on strike right now down in Hollywood in the U.S. because they're fighting back against. They want to shrink their writers' rooms, only have maybe one or two writers, and then use AI for the rest.
Or not even have actors. A lot of actors could be replaced by artificial intelligence, even using them in movies where they're not even there.
Yeah, and their
likenesses, voices can be copied and that kind of thing too. So this, I was reading too more on it, will be challenged at higher levels and probably eventually make it to the Supreme Court. However, it sets a precedent. So it may be, a bit of a pushback. Humans are looking at AI and maybe going, maybe we should pull the plug just for a while. Several examples of law and disorder, including this one, a road rage incident in Texas recently, where allegedly it started because the guy was distracted by his phone, swerving on the road, and also didn't notice when a red light turned to green.
So the guy driving behind him started honking at him, as he should. Apparently that made the guy in front mad, the distracted driver. So he started throwing objects at the other vehicle. Then the two vehicles stopped, and the distracted driver got out a can of white spray paint and started spraying it in the other guy's face and on his car. That's when the other guy apparently then spray painted him. They think he wrestled the can of spray paint away, then started spraying the guy who was attacking him in the first place. And when police showed up, they were both covered in white paint.
Yeah, all over their face and elsewhere too. So the distracted driver, the one who initiated the spray painting, was arrested and charged with felony criminal mischief. What a wild story.
So weird.
Hey, an illegal dispensary set up in the parking lot of a restaurant was shut down in New York. And this guy by the name of John was trying to sell weed to people who worked in a nearby garden, not knowing that they worked at a drug rehab facility. And that triggered the police then to get involved in the whole situation.
One was operating here in the parking lot of the former carriage house, which now goes by the name of River's Edge. We immediately set up a surveillance, made some undercover buys, and found that the person was operating illegally. In addition to selling marijuana, he was also selling hallucinogens. They were approached by this gentleman who was soliciting business, wanted to sell them drugs, and the supervisors who were assisting these people took great offense to that, and that was the impetus for this whole case to begin.
I mean, what are the odds of that you set up in that area and you're trying to sell to employees of a drug rehab facility, right? Yeah, so now he's headed off to jail.
And finally, in our last stupid criminal story, a guy was recently caught stealing 3 cakes from a grocery store. But the reason why it's so dumb is that the cakes literally had a picture of the thief on them. His name is Daiquiri Jackson. He's 24 years old. He ordered 3 cakes from the grocery store with photos of himself printed on them, so we had to submit them a photo. So when he went through the self-checkout, he didn't pay for the cakes. He paid for candles and some other items, paid $12.99, but he didn't scan the cakes, which altogether were worth about $90. Police are still looking for him, but they say it's only a matter of time because they literally have his photo.
His face on the cake. Another day and another internet scam to be aware of, and this one involves dogs.
You might have seen this before if you've been on like Facebook. You'll come across a post. Usually it's in, like a local community group that seems to show an injured dog that is lost and are trying to reunite with its owner, or, they found an injured dog on the side of the road, and people are sharing it onto their own Facebook page because, you want to be helpful. But all of a sudden, then it turns out it's not exactly quite what it seems. It's a scam.
Yeah, they call it bait and switch. And it's becoming more and more common in these groups. So the posts start out by trying to appeal to your emotions, right?
Using a dog.
Heartstrings and all that. They'll typically show that injured animal and whatnot. But, it's not a real thing, because what'll happen is more and more people share it. They change that link to something else.
Yeah, once the post has enough shares, the scammer will change its content to include some type of scam link, oftentimes promoting a rental listing and some kind of fraud ad. And the people who originally shared the post a lot of times have no idea that it's been altered unless they go back and look at their profile and they're like, what? I never shared that. What is this about? And it'll end up being on their profile for days before maybe they finally notice and take it down.
Or they don't take it down at all, and it just sits there, and then it gets in front of your eyes, and then you're like, oh, my friend shared this, so it must be legitimate. Then you share it, and so on and so on. So more often than not, and what's scummy about this too is, for anyone that legitimately maybe has found a dog or has brought a dog to a rescue place, now you question that, because of these scammers out there doing this. So be very careful with those ones, especially when you see injured dogs.
The one thing I will say this is that if you do see something like this shared into, a community group that you're a part of, click on the person's profile, because you can usually tell, because it's a very new profile. They have no friends, there's no sort of any background on it. So you can usually tell if it's a scam or not.
Yeah, if the account was created 12 hours ago, odds are it might be a scam. There's a section of the site Reddit that's called Does Anyone Else, where people list weird things they do and ask other people if they do them too. Well, here's a few that, a lot of us have probably done before and we never really talk about it, right?
Like whenever you have to spell the word Wednesday, you probably sound it out in your head as Wednesday.
Every time. Wednesday. Although, I think it's second nature to spell it, but I still do that in my head. Did you ever come across a distinct smell that takes you back to maybe a childhood memory, but you can't necessarily put your finger on it?
It just smells familiar.
For me, though, I can't put my finger on it. Campfire sometimes. It just takes me back to camping all over the province when I was a kid. Every summer for 2 weeks, we would go all over the place.
Another thing that we all do but never really mention, bumping into something and then saying ouch, even though it didn't actually hurt.
There's another one. When you pee and it's totally clear. You're proud of yourself for being hydrated. Look at me, drinking lots of water.
Are you ever driving behind the car for a very long time, and then when they get off, you're kind of sad because you feel like you had a bond?
Especially if you're traveling a great distance, I find, right? Like sometimes if we go up northern Ontario, you're behind somebody for a really long time, and then suddenly they turn and they go off into some little town. You're like, oh, I guess I'm on my own now. Some of the other things that maybe we all do, but never necessarily mention: when you flush the toilet but don't get a full flush, so you stand there and wait for the tank to refill.
Oh man, it happens all the time here at work, and you're just like, I just peed. Why didn't it all stop?
I gotta flush it again.
This one definitely. When your pet is on your lap and you need to get up, do you ever try to explain to them that it's not personal? Do not leave. I'm coming right back. But they never do. They always get up too. Sometimes I go to the kitchen just to get refill my glass of water, and he follows me, and I'm like,
oh yeah,
no, I'm not coming for snacks. Go sit down again.
Oh, golden retrievers, man, they follow. I want to help, and you might be dropping food, so I want to be there in case it happens. Do you ever put on a sock, spot a hole in it, and decide it's the last time you'll ever wear those socks, but then you forget, wash them again, and repeat the process?
I have a pair of socks that has a little hole in it, so I'm like, oh, I can just sew that up. I still haven't done it. It's been like 2 weeks.
Have you ever darned socks? Have you ever done that?
What's the difference between darning and just sewing? Is that
know.
just sewing them?
No idea. I just wanted to say the word darn. But do we ever do those kinds of things? I don't think so. Just throw them out. Get a new pair.
And have you ever spent 30 minutes writing an email that turns out to just be like 2 sentences?
Because you're thinking about it.
Yeah, and then I still hit send, and then I immediately, as I hit send, I realize, oh, there's a spelling error or a grammar error.
At least now with Gmail, you can hit that, if you could do it quick enough, that undo button, right?
Yeah, you can set that to be a little bit longer, up to a minute, I think, actually.
Oh, nice tip. Some of the things we all seem to do, but just never really talk about.
Today, August 24th, is the sickest day of the year. We're likely to skip out work more today than any other day in the whole year.
So if you're at work and you're like, where is everybody? This might be the reason why. Apparently, a company that tracks sick days looked at 5 years worth of data, and they say more people call in sick on August 24th than any other day of the year, either because they are sick or, maybe they just want to play hooky and they're saying they're sick.
Late August, I think it's option number 2. They just don't want to be here as we get closer to Labor Day.
Mm-hmm. Maybe you've been off for a week, and especially too, like down in the U.S., kids are back to school south of the border in a lot of spots. So for today, on August 24th, maybe these parents are like, okay, kids are back in school. I need a day to myself at home to just relax.
That's the likeliest thing that's going on right now, because by a long shot, August is not the sickest month. That belongs to February. A lot of people tend to be sick in February. The second sickest day behind today is February the 13th, which of course is the day right before Valentine's Day. The Super Bowl is usually around that time.
Oh, yeah, you're calling in sick on Monday.
Air quotes. That probably has something to do with it. So the rest of the top 5 are October 25th, the third sickest day of the year, the week before Halloween. December 15th, which is a lead up to Christmas time. And for some unknown reason, just in the middle of nowhere, it's April 18th, the 5th most call-in sick of the whole year.
That's very weird. Very strange.
Couple more things. A common sick day excuses last year were things like stomach bugs. We're still going through some COVID times, and just the mental health days. You need just kind of a day to do nothing, right?
Those are important as well.
Yes, they are.
26% of Americans say they didn't take any sick days last year. Yeah, probably because they don't get paid.
That's probably
so. For a lot of people, they're sick, but they're still going to work. And calling in sick is a bit of an outdated term, because most people now either text or, send a Slack message or a Google chat or an email.
Nobody calls anybody. So that includes calling your boss, your workplace.
Well, I remember, I think when I first started working here, I needed to call in sick. And this was before, smartphones were really a big thing. And I had lost my voice, though. So my mom, because I was still living at home, I had to have my mom call my boss and tell him that I was sick, because I legit could not talk. Because I think I had emailed to tell him, I've lost my voice, so I can't, there's no way I could come to work. And I felt like garbage.
Yeah.
And he called me, and I think my mom had to answer the phone, because I'm like, she literally can't talk.
She also sent you a note. Please excuse Cheryl's absence from work today. She can't talk. 2% don't even bother telling their boss they're not coming in. They just
don't show up.
That's an interesting strategy. 2%. So today, of all days, again, if you need an excuse, if it's not too late to not go in, today is the quote-unquote sickest day of the year. Enjoy your day.
You've been listening to Dave and Cheryl's Favorite Moments of the Week.